Stanley Matthews.
What about Stanley Matthews?
Well, I played football with him on a kick around.
Oh, did you?
But this is how we get into it, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well,
hey?
I've hit record, Dad. So welcome to the Granite Zero podcast.
Well, nice to be here, son.
The honour is all mine. I've been excited, Dad, because one, this will probably be the longest conversation we've had on a phone or FaceTime ever.
Well, that could be true. I'm not very good on phones.
No, we know that. But unfortunately, we've got no alcohol involved. So it's not like we're going to be in the pub telling all these stories like we normally do.
Well, unlike the common belief, I'm not an alcoholic.
No, but we do the Thompsons do like a drop of alcohol. I haven't drunk since October.
Well, it's quite funny. We've just had to order a bigger recycle bin at Litchfield Avenue.
Is that for my brother by any chance?
Oh, and me.
It's all those Guinnesses, mate.
Well, I've changed from glass bottles to cans.
Oh, yeah.
Well, squash the cans down and get more in.
Definitely. Make that bigger.
Yeah.
Right, so we've got a lot to talk about, really, because you've led, lives. But what I really want to talk about is, don't tell Mum. I don't even think she listens. She pretends to listen. But what I've always been intrigued by was obviously you're brought up as a military brat, as it were.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously Granddad was in the Air Force, like both of us. What was that like?
Yeah, he did 36 years. My early life is living on bases, moving schools. I think I had 13 schools. But I do have a recollection of where this overlapped with football.
Yeah.
When I was walking down a hill from Aylesbury, the village of Aylesbury in Wiltshire.
Yeah.
Which is by Boscombe Down. And Boscombe Down was just up the hill slightly. You wouldn't do it nowadays, but I would have been 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And my job was to walk my younger brother, your Uncle Brian, to school. I was 7 and he was 6.
You couldn't do that these days. Definitely not. I would not let the girls.
Well, I don't think we should have done it then because he got run over and broke his leg.
As you do. Why not?
He was up on a bank. There was like a bank coming down either side of the road.
Yeah.
And he came out of the village up the hill and around to the right was where the married quarters were. And I was telling him not to do it, but he's not going to take any notice of his brother who's only a year older.
No, definitely
and
not.
He slid down the bank into the road and got hit. And I carried on walking home and just walked into, and my mum said, well, where is he? And I said, oh, he's going to hospital. He's been in an accident. And like, where's my tea?
Yeah. Oh, he's got to hospital. Just shrug it off.
Yeah. But the other memories of Boscombe Down and Aylesbury School was that's my first recollections of playing football. And I played left half.
Left half?
Because that's what it was called in those days. Left half. And I had a pair of those old leather boots with the studs you nailed on.
You're all going back some years now, aren't you?
This is about 1958 time.
Bloody hell.
58, 59.
So,
that's my earliest memory of me playing football.
Because football's obviously been a big part of, mine, Darren, and
your
life.
Well, that was what I was going to be, hopefully. I mean, that was back in the old days. They didn't pay you very much as a footballer, but probably more than the average.
So that was always the dream then, was to become a professional footballer.
Yeah.
Did that get like rocked a little bit? Because obviously with Grandad traveling, you having to go to different countries like Malaysia?
I was all set up. If you roll on a couple of years, we lived in Yorkshire.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
RAF Finningley was where my dad was then, and I think he was a flight sergeant then, if I remember rightly. Might have got promoted to warrant officer around that time, but I think he was flight sergeant. And anyway, he was doing his thing on the Vulcan bombers, the big V bombers.
Yeah.
You must have heard of those.
Of course.
Our ex-RAF regiment.
Of course.
Anyway, yeah, he worked on those, and I was the sicko out of the first family, as I call it, the older three. The other two, Brian and Jen, went to the grammar school, and I went to Armthorpe High. So I was a bit of an outcast.
The outcast.
But I was very good at sport. And I tried out for I don't know if it was the school first 11, but it was certainly a couple of years or 3 years above the year I was in. I tried out for the team. And you can probably picture it where you're there, and I would have been quite a scrawny little shit. And basically the older boys just said, well, if you want to play, then you go in goal. And I went in goal and got picked in the team. And I was like 2 years younger than everyone else.
Yeah.
And that rolled on, and it turned out I was quite good at it. And that's the sort of inkling that I had, that I was quite a natural sportsman, never bound to break world records.
Yeah. Like a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I could play any sport, and liked the football, and it just went on from there. And I finished up in the Doncaster and district side. Doncaster Rovers got interested. Can't remember who the manager was then. And this was now mid-60s we're talking about.
Yeah.
And my dad then got posted to Malta, just as Doncaster had signed me on schoolboy terms. So I went out, 67 that would have been. I went out to Malta, started playing for a local side there, and got all that. I think you've seen some of the paper cut-ins, and I mean, there's Jen, who didn't go into Malta. She stayed at school. She kept a scrapbook, which unknown to me. Saw that years later, and it was full of, and it was quite nice to read through it and see all these.
Yeah, I bet.
Things that I'd forgotten about.
So how come did you get told to go to Malta? Because obviously Jen was staying at school. Were you told, no, Ed, you're going to Malta?
I was too young to stay then. I was too young to stay. And she was going to uni or college, whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was, and she did have the brain power, which I didn't have. I was good at maths.
Well, I know that, but we need you to help Jess.
Football and sport then sort of took over in Malta, because the only thing I was ever interested in at school was the sport. And I think I represented the school at everything I could.
Best way to be.
And from the football point of view, from locally, I started playing for a local team and became a bit of a local hero in some ways. Because, well, not so much hero is the wrong word.
A legend.
Well, that's what it is now. It's not. I went back there only a couple of years ago. My picture was still on the wall.
Of course it was.
In this bar. And I'm not telling you where it was. The old man used to go in there. He was only 100 yards from the house. That's how I got playing football. He told someone in there, and they had a look at me, and then that's how it went on. So
did Grandad take a lot of interest in your football?
Yes, he used to come to most of my games in Malta. He came up to practice with us once. Where was that? That's the last time he played football, I think, because he played a little bit of football.
Yeah, I was going to say, did Grandad play football?
His time. He came up to play with me and Brian and a couple of our mates at Finningley, so Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And he got kicked on his shin, and his leg came up about twice the size. He never kicked the ball again.
Just stuck to drink a beer.
Well, yeah, he liked to drop a beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard a story the other day about my dad. That was quite funny. That they were saying that I think Jen was driving because my mum, as you know, mum doesn't drive via Graham, and he told him to pull in. He wanted the toilet, and they pull in this lay-by, and there's a pub, a hotel type pub. He goes in there, and they're sat in the car waiting, and it's like 20 minutes. And they walk in, and he sat at the bar having a pint.
That doesn't sound like you at all, that, Dad.
No, it wasn't me. It was him.
I know, but you would have done it. You could have done the same thing.
No, I would have taken you in. I'd have taken you in with me.
Now, I was saying that to Kate actually the other day. We were watching something on telly, and it was about people that can, you know, they have a presence, and they can go into like a bar, and they can tell stories, and people seem to come around. And I was like, well, Dad is very much like that. So I always remember going into the pub, and like you would just be in there telling stories and doing whatever, drinking a beer. And it was like, you don't really see that much these days. That sort of drinking culture sort of gone, leaving with your generation.
Yeah, pubs are different now, aren't they? And when we get back to them, it's going to be different again. I mean, I think they'll lose a lot of custom.
Yeah,
because people will sort of sit there and think, you know, I've had a reasonable time.
Yeah, I can just sit at home and have a beer.
And I mean, like in our case, where we built a bar and we've got our own little pub, so to speak.
Arms.
You can invite people round, and it's somewhere to sit, and it's like being in the pub.
Yeah, to be fair, the setup that you and Darren have got in the house is really nice. Yeah. But we digress. We've still got loads more.
Yeah. What? So where are we? About mid-60s now, aren't we?
We are.
We jumped over the school in a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, don't really need
don't need to hear any more of that.
But swimming was another thing you were good at.
Eh?
Swimming was another thing you were good at, wasn't it?
Yeah,
or still good at.
When we were in Malaya, this is again as kids, and we formed a swimming club. I say we because it was me, Brian, and if my mum was here now, she'd tell me the other names of the boys because she somehow remembers them.
Of course she does.
And there was a Australian corporal in the RAF, so Royal Australian Air Force, who was a bit of a swimming coach and what have you. When I look back now and I think about it, thinking about this bloke was in his like early 20s then, I'm guessing, maybe 30.
Yeah.
What was he doing with a bunch of schoolboys?
He was having a great time.
But no. But he did. He formed the Dolphin swimming club.
Yeah.
He must take the credit for the vast majority. And it went on for years. Obviously not there now because I think the station's closed and everything else. But we had weekly, I think it was, or was it monthly? It might have been monthly. Swimming galas.
Yeah.
And we just used to compete at the various age groups. And there was the three main guys. There was me, my brother, and there was the other lad who was the same age as us. And I used to win the backstroke every time. Brian used to win the breaststroke. And this matey boy, I can't think of his name, has won the butterfly. And it'd only be like 1 or 2 lengths, can't remember exactly. And it was a free-for-all for the freestyle because we were all about the same. And then I went off at age 10 and a half, 11 to boarding school for 6 months.
Oh, treat yourself.
And I didn't do a great deal of swimming when I was there, but they obviously carried on doing their bit. And when I came back, I went in the gala and I won 6 events.
Just needed the break.
Much to my brother's annoyance.
Yeah, because you're very competitive, aren't you? All the Thompsons. Yeah. Well, I try and explain that to
especially me and him.
Yeah. Well, I think me and Darren have a similar thing when it comes to sports, anyway.
Yeah, but I think the dynamic with me and Brian is the fact that because we're close together.
Yeah,
so
you're a lot closer than what me, as in age was.
Yeah, we did a lot together
Hmm.
as kids growing up because we were the same age. All the scrumping used to go around. I remember the old man
Scrumping.
Do you know what scrumping is?
And that's something to do with nicking apples.
Yeah, or fruit. And we went to. He got called into the CO, the station commander, and got bollocking because we'd been caught scrumping in the CO's garden.
Is this abroad as well?
No, this was in Finley. That was.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's some good stories there, but we are digressing slightly, aren't we?
Yeah, that's fine. We can digress as much as you want, Dad.
Yeah, but back in Malta, though, when I started playing for St. Peter's, which was a third division side, out in Berzabuja, which I think I've taken you there.
Yeah, we went to Buja. That's where you used to jump from the balconies, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's where we used to get a lot of trouble.
Doesn't sound like you, Dad, getting in trouble. What are you talking about?
More so your uncle, but
yeah, we won't stitch him up.
But I played for Malta from that, but Malta schoolboys. So 2 years running, 67, 68. So I played in France and Spain.
Oh, nice.
Against the UK, Spain, France, Italy. I was on one of those trips coming back. We pulled into Rome Airport and we were on a coach, and there was a lot of excitement going on. And all the guys were going, "Come on, you got to get his autograph. You got to get his autograph." And I was like, "Well, whose?" And they said it's Matt Busby.
Oh, really?
And Matt Busby was on the coach. So Matt Busby had an affiliation with Hibernians Malta and playing. I used to go to Malta a lot, holiday there, and a lot of his players. Even now, I think.
Even now, Manchester United. Yeah, Man United as a whole, I think.
So, I've never been one to be starstruck in that autograph hunting and things like that. But I went and sat next to him, and we just finished up talking because he said, "You're English, you're not Maltese." And then he said, "Wait a minute," he said, "You're the goalkeeper." And I was a bit like, "What? He knows who I am." And this is the sort of person. That's not me bragging about me, but it was the fact that he'd been told about me. Yeah. Because at this stage, I was playing for Hibernians in Malta, and they'd obviously told Man United, "We've got a young English prospect here that's playing, blah, etc., etc."
Yeah.
Because that's how they do it. It doesn't mean to say that they were ever going to sign me or anything. I'm not saying that. Whether I'd ever been good enough is another thing. But what impressed me was the fact that this guy knew. Yeah,
he took a lot from grassroots football, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. That's one of the older generation football. The other one was Stanley Matthews. Stanley Matthews, about 1967, just finished. In fact, he might not even have quite finished playing because he played till he was like 49 years old. He played in the league.
Yeah, that's mental.
In England. But he bought a house in Malta. He bought a villa. Yeah. And he eventually moved to there. He was at the game when we played AC Milan, but that's another story a bit later on. There's a bunch of us kicking a ball around, and you know in Malta there is quite a few grass pitches nowadays, but there never used to be. It was all rubble and
even when we first started going out, it was not much grass.
And we were kicking a ball about, and this old boy comes trundling across the field, and you couldn't tell if he was English, Maltese, or anything else. I mean, to start off with, quite an old. Well, to us, he looked really old and leathery skin and what have you, you know. And he said, "Can I have a kick around with you boys?" And his English was good, so we thought, well, he must be English, you know. And we went, "Yeah, no, we haven't got a problem with that." And then all of a sudden, this bloke's a magician, and he's giving it all this stuff, keeping up and catching the ball, and it's Stanley Matthews,
absolute wizard.
And he had and we were like, no one believed us when we told him, but he did. He lived out.
That is that's one of those stories, though, as a kid, isn't it? Where you go, "I played football with Stanley Matthews." Yeah, of course you did, mate.
He didn't know who I was, though.
Oh, no. It's a shame, isn't it?
But, yeah, I mean, that takes you on to the fact that I'd gone as then 16 years old, transferred under the counter. So there was some money exchanged hands between St. Peter's and Hibernians, but I was an amateur, so they couldn't do it and announce it. But there was money involved. I started getting boot money.
Oh,
and it was every week. There was, I can't remember how much it was. We'll say it was 20 quid, which would have been that would have been a huge amount of money. It was probably a tenner.
Yeah.
In fact,
but back then,
it was probably Maltese. It was probably Maltese lima because thinking about it, they didn't use the English currency then. I don't think.
Yeah.
Can't remember. Certainly wasn't euros.
Yeah. Obviously.
And anyway, so I had this money. It made me like the richest kid on the block from the point of view of school. And all of a sudden, I became very popular.
Yeah.
We used to go to a nightclub, which was the school disco thing. I tried to find it in Valletta, but I've never been able to find it. I found the building, and it's underneath because it was called the cellar, and
a bit like
there was a couple of bars outside, and we used to go in there and have a few. And years later, I'm talking to my mum.
Yeah.
And she let the cat out of the bag. My dad never mentioned it, but she said, "Well, don't you realise that we knew you were getting paid?" And I thought all these years, I got away with it, and they never know.
Can't hide anything from your parents.
Well, that's true. And it's the same thing I know. So I know most things about you see.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hibernians was good. I played. Let's see, when I started the season, because Mitzi, who was the Maltese international keeper, he was injured.
Yeah.
At the start of that season, and I got in, and then I stayed in up until Christmas 67, 68, 67, 68, somewhere around about there. I think it was December 68. And we come to play AC Milan in a friendly. And this is AC Milan minus about 4 Italian internationals who were playing for Italy in some other competition. They announced the team, and bearing in mind in those days, no subs in the way we make subs. I'm not playing. Mitzi's fit again, and they're putting him, but he had been fit for 2 months.
Yeah.
But they deemed me to be better than him, but this was such a big game. Anyway, he got injured, and I went on at half time. So I played, that's my biggest game ever, AC Milan.
Well, you can't really get much bigger than AC Milan.
No. And I only let 1 goal in, which was a penalty. So I was quite chuffed with that.
What was the score?
2-0.
Oh, 2. I was expecting that Mitzi let in about 8 goals.
Oh, no. And that was it. At the end of that season, I was flying back to UK.
Was that because you wanted to fly back, or was that because Grandad got reposted?
No, they stayed out there. I came back to England on my own. Went to Doncaster, and George Rayner, the manager of Sweden in 1958 World Cup, was the manager. But he was manager of Doncaster Rovers, and I had a letter from him saying that he'd been interested in he kept following what I'd been doing and all the rest of it. And I'm thinking, well, somebody must have told you this because you didn't follow me.
You didn't follow me in Malta. I'm not having that.
I never saw you once.
Yeah.
And I just got my feet on the ground, and he got sacked or he retired. I can't remember which it was now.
Yeah.
And they appointed Laurie McMenemy, a bloody guardsman who never kicked a football in his life. And I knew more about football then than he does even now at the end of his career.
Yeah.
But there you go. He and I, as you can probably guess by that, didn't hit it off.
See to eye to eye, no?
Frank Marshall, who was the trainer there, we played Sheffield Wednesday in the second leg of a youth cup. I hadn't played in the first leg, and they got beat 26-0. There was me and a centre half.
Yeah.
Me and a centre half, and there was one other lad that came in for the second leg. And we were like three of the regulars that had been playing in this youth side. Bearing in mind, in those days, you had the first team, reserves, and the youth team.
Yeah.
That was the setup. And we got beat 2-1. I had a good game, and you don't need someone to tell you.
Yeah, it's something you know most of the time if you've got a good
and we played at Wednesday's ground. What is it? Bloody
Hillsborough.
Yeah, play Hillsborough. And I can understand and see how the guys feel at the moment that are playing professionally, because you got no one in the stands.
Yeah,
huge ground, and it's
big empty stadium. Yeah,
it's you're better off playing on a field down in the park, because you don't
or on the training pitch like the youth team do.
Yeah.
Carrington and whatnot.
Yeah, Frank said he said, well, young Eddie, as they called me then, if he doesn't sign you now, he never will. Following week, I joined the Air Force.
I was going to actually ask you about the Air Force, seeing as we're moving on to that subject. It wasn't quite like
that. I was out there, and I'd been staying with some friends of my mum and dad's from the Air Force.
Yeah.
And the old man was giving them money for my keep.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't earning any money, and I knew he wasn't particularly well off in that sense. I mean, why would he be? So I had to get a job. I had to get signed on and get a contract or get a job.
Yeah.
And so I became an assistant manager at Woolworths.
Oh, there's something I never knew.
And I carried on playing.
Yeah.
And then we reached that bit I just said about playing against Sheffield Wednesday and what have you. And in the end, we had a game against Scunthorpe in the FA Cup, and I hadn't been playing. He just wasn't. He knew what my abilities were, and he was trying out other goalkeepers and different players, and which is what happens in youth teams. It wasn't anything against me.
Yeah.
But unless you stand out, he's got his whole thing is to build up his first team, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, he came up to me and he said, "This is McMenamin," and he said, "I hear that you said you're not playing in the game against Scunthorpe." I said, "No, I'm not." And he was like, I said, "Because I won't be here." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "I joined the Air Force." And I'd done all this on the quiet, and I hadn't told anybody, I'd just done it myself. I'd gone in, taken the aptitude test, and flew through that on the PTI side. But I still had to go down to St. Athens to be vetted.
Yeah.
For PTI. Which I did do, and I passed. And then this match came up.
Yeah, yeah.
And by which time I've got my dates to go in, because they don't take you in until you've done that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I was actually at Swinderby. Stood there in my number 2 uniform and whatever. And I get told I've got to go and see the station commander, who was a wing commander. And I go in there, and you stand in there, giving it all that, just sticks in. And I've done it a few times since, actually, but this was
for different reasons.
And he just asked me, he said, why have you refused to play for Doncaster Rovers? And I said, I hadn't refused. I just said I was in the Air Force, so I couldn't play. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I've talked it over. He said, and I think it'd be good for the Air Force if you went. And this is when I found out what it's like about being in the Air Force.
Oh, yeah.
It made no difference what I wanted to do.
No.
I was playing in that game.
Yeah.
The only thing they couldn't do was make me play well. But I was not going to throw a game. We went there and we got beat 2-1, I think. Can't remember. I think it was 2-1 or 2 each, and then there was a replay. That's right. We drew, and there was a replay, which I never played it.
Ah, I got you.
And Kevin Keegan played.
Oh, well, there you go.
But I didn't know he was famous. He wasn't famous then. But he got posted. He got transferred to Liverpool. not that long after.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
That's where he came from, Scunthorpe.
Well,
there you go.
Some more claim to fames there. So, was it always going to be the Air Force for you because of what you saw with your dad, or did you look at everything else, or was it because, the Air Force had the PTI slot?
The reason I picked the Air Force was that in the Air Force, you join in, you're a tradesman.
Yeah.
And you're a tradesman first. If you join the Army or the Navy, you're a sailor first or a pongo first.
Pongo.
But
yeah, I get you.
You cannot bother.
Yeah.
A bit like you were in the RAF regiment.
Cheers.
no, but infantry soldiers, and I've got utmost respect for all of them. And I've probably seen more of lots of different ones.
Yeah, of course you have.
Across the board.
We'll get to that anyway.
It's easy to digress. It'd have been even worse if I'd have been on the piss.
It's fine.
So I was going to be a PTI first and foremost.
Yeah. That's what you wanted. That was your trade that you wanted. You weren't going to be a mechanic or anything like that.
It was sports orientated, when I did my course, 49 course in 1970.
Oof.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when it was. Because we had a delay. I'm just trying to think back now. Christ almighty, it's a long time since I thought about this. I had to do a parachute course, 4 jumps, where you just do what the Army do.
Yeah.
And then there was no vacancies. A course got cancelled. So I got sent to Swindon.
Yeah.
As an auxiliary.
Got you.
You're learning the job, but you're not.
Because as a PTI, correct me if I'm wrong, you can specialize, can't you? Like you specialized as a PJI. You could specialize
nowadays.
You
can.
Yeah.
Nowadays you can. I mean, you took the Q ratings for mountaineering outdoor activities.
Yeah.
That's what you had, and you also had rehab.
Yeah.
And parachuting.
You get paid more for parachuting, don't you?
You get parachute pay, yeah. How it is these days, I don't know, but I'm imagining much the same. But there's now a Q annotation for being a PTI. As an expert, as a PTI, as against, so that becomes a specialist thing as well.
Yeah.
So they put them all into groups, basically. But I did my parachuting, and when you sign on the dotted line to do the parachuting, you can't turn around 5 or 6 years later when they post you to Abingdon, as it was then, to do your instructor's course. You can't turn around and say, "Well, I don't want to do this." You say, but you signed to say you would parachute.
Oh, so you will be going there.
It was their way of getting people to do it, because not most right-minded people don't particularly want to jump out of airplanes until they've done it.
No, that you do get that a lot. Like most of the lads that I served with were like, "Why would you want to jump out of a perfectly serviceable airplane?"
Yeah,
it's like because it looks cool. That's why.
Yeah. I never got sent back, and that's probably down to the fact that the ankles, which is well documented medically wise. That once I got in the RAF athletics team, and then subsequently combined services, and I was good. And I don't say that but I was good. But I got to the point where I could only do 1 or maybe 2 jumps out of 6 because the ankles were playing up so much. So they sent me to see a specialist.
Yeah.
And the specialist downgraded me and said I would never be a PTI. I'd have to have a desk job. And I persuaded this bloke to let me go back to Swindon and do 6 months where I would do everything except play football and athletics.
Yeah.
Which was my main 2 sports. And I eventually persuaded them. And I said, "Well, can I play football?" And the bloke went, you must be bloody mad. I said, well, I'm a goalkeeper, so I don't need to kick the ball. You couldn't say that these days because
because that's
now it's all you're as much a player as anyone else. But I did the 6 months, and I went back and went and saw the specialist. And he said, it was on my 21st birthday when he told me I'd have to pack it in as a PTI. So that's 1971. And I went back, as I said, after 6 months. I did everything. I told him that, apart from triple jump. I didn't do any triple jump. And without even X-raying my ankles again, he upgraded me.
Without even looking.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
So that was that all before your actual parachute jumps as well?
Before, I'd done the basic course.
Is that a family trait?
What?
Because the ankle problem. Because
no idea.
Because I got downgraded after my Lance Corporal course because I kept rolling my ankles. And I went for rehab, and they said, you've literally got no ligament in your ankles. How many parachute jumps have you done? I was like, I haven't done any. So that could well be a hereditary trait.
Could be.
Weak ankles.
I roll my ankles easily. I do roll my ankles.
Kate finds it hilarious how many times I roll my ankle. Just walking down the road.
I just spring back up.
Spring back up. Spring back up and carry on. Yeah. So I put mine down to for the amount of times I did it playing basketball, but so I might have just had weak ankles because of you. You've given me weak ankles. Yeah, well, I had to get something from you, didn't I?
Yeah, but I didn't know about my weak ankles until I used to play on the wing.
Yeah.
Every time I played in goal, I was fine, and when I started playing out to have a bit of fun, I'd roll my ankles. So it's hereditary. It's got to be.
It's got to be. But they still managed to upgrade you and then throw you out of an aeroplane.
Well, funny enough, I volunteered. I was with your mum by then.
Yeah.
We weren't married though. I think we got married on the 17th of January 1981. There you go.
There you go. Some trivia for you.
Yeah, I looked at it the other day. That's why I know that. I don't know why I was looking at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I volunteered to go back. I didn't think they'd accept me, but they did. But by that time, I was already a sergeant. Because I'd spent 3 years in Germany.
Yeah.
Being this wonderful ski instructor. You see, whatever I turned my hand to, I was just brilliant. But again, it wasn't I was any sort of whiz kid on the ski slopes.
Yeah.
I was a good teacher and could do the basics very well. And so I'd only been skiing for a week when I took a course, and I passed it. Rolled on 18 months, and I was the only PTI left in Germany who had that qualification. So I got the RAF Germany ski scheme. That was mine to look after. And we used to go and spend 4 months of the year down in Bavaria. Well, you know the rest.
Oh, yeah. Getting on it. Getting on it more ways than one.
But there you go. Yeah. I went back. I took you out there, didn't I?
Yeah, we went out in
years later. That was after doing lots of other things.
Yeah.
But, anyway, carry on. I seem to be doing all the talking.
No, that's fine. I'm listening. I'm living history right here.
Yeah.
No, well, because obviously the Air Force is a huge part of us, and we speak about. Me and Darren have spoke about it quite a number of times about your parachuting, and let's be fair, not blowing smoke up your ass. You're pretty spectacular at it. So, is it just another thing that you just picked up easily? You seem to just pick it up and be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah.
Well, to give you an example, when we first started, there were some really good guys in the RAF Falcons and what have you. And bear in mind, when I went back to the parachute school, when I first went to the parachute, I was already a sergeant.
Yeah.
So it was not normal to go. You go as a corporal, and at the end, if you pass the course, you got your third tape.
Yeah.
Well, I already had that, so my incentive was not the extra tape. It was to do something different, a new challenge. And at the time, I was still playing football for the Air Force and the Combined Services. Because I mean, I was a professional sportsman in effect. If you think about it.
Yeah.
I was very lucky in that I was good enough to represent the Air Force and Combined Services at 2 sports.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's many that have done that. I'm sure there are others.
There probably are now, but yeah, probably back then, not so much.
I mean, it was quite funny after the ankle problems and all the rest of it, and I said I wouldn't do the triple jump. I did come out of retirement, was in Germany, and I went back to the UK for the 1975 RAF Championship and won the triple jump. Got the gold, got a cup.
Of course you did.
And so
Rascal.
I've actually got the accolade of winning that cup. And on that cup, it's only about so big, solid silver.
Yeah.
There's all the engravings. It goes back into the 40s. And I think it was 1952. I was reading it. Corporal E. Darlow. And Flight Sergeant E. Darlow was my flight sergeant in Germany at the time. And me and him used to lock horns all the time. And it was basically, and the boss used to say, he said, it's because you're exactly the same as each other. And when I went back with this cup, and I said, I'd seen it. And I said, and he never mentioned it. He never told me that he was a triple jumper.
No, I got you. Oh,
he won the same cup as me all those years later. And there you go. And it's like,
your mentor.
Yeah. That same bloke, he was French.
Yeah.
Partly French. And his wife was French. And she was very French in everything she did. And they had 2 daughters. There was me and a bloke called Mike Rafferty. Shouldn't say too much, depending on who's hearing. We're there. I was with my first wife then.
Yeah.
Dagmar. And he was with his missus. I think they're still together. And we were corporals together at RAF Rheindarlen. Anyway, Eric invites us round for a meal. So we all go round, and his 2 daughters are there on holiday, or have been on holiday. And me and Mike had been offering to partner him up to play badminton and take difference. Anyway, but
of course you did, you rascal.
We get there, and in those days they used to do everyone hated it. Let's get the bloody the family snaps out, show you our holiday.
Yeah.
And we're like, we've gone there for a bit of a piss up, And anyway, he comes out, and old Eric's there, and he had a very slight accent still. His missus still had a very Frenchy accent.
Yeah.
And although she was in her 50s, she was a good-looking lady, should we say. And the 2 girls were like 19 and 21 or something. And they're flicking through pictures, and they've been on rivers and different places, and the girls are sunbathing topless.
Very
continental. And me and Mike sat like this, and the wives are there. And then all of a sudden, he flicks one on, and he's forgotten to take this one out, hasn't he? And it's one of his missus who's topless.
Oi, oi!
That's exactly what Mike did.
Love it.
And our two wives went, time we left. Thank you very much, Eric. It's been a lovely evening. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Brilliant.
That story's far funnier when I've had a few beers.
I'm sure it is. No, it's still a good story.
But, yeah.
So going back to the jumping out of planes, which is crazy to most people.
Jumping out of planes.
Yeah, it's a foreign concept to a lot of people.
Well, to most people, I think. Yeah, well, when we did it, you do a series of tests and challenges.
Yeah.
So the first time you go out, there's no test. It's getting you out the door, and hopefully you're going to fall stable. You've been given all the instructions of how to rectify any minor problems and all the rest of it. And you have a guy that follows you, which is what my job became, to follow people. But you went out on your own. No one was holding you. Nowadays, very few people go out without assistance. Somebody holding them, or they're clipped to them, or whatever. In those days, which is not that long ago, you went out on your own and the bloke followed you. Sometimes they went out in front of you. Well, I just went out and I got down and I pulled and I landed, and I was like, well, what was that all about then?
Yeah.
Because I'd just fallen straight down, and I got quite bored after a while because nothing happened.
Yeah. But
you then go on and you learn how to turn. And it's all about deflecting air and doing all this. And eventually you get to a point where you actually, if I want to be over there, you just do something and you're there. Someone said, well, what did you do? You've got to, which is what you have to remember when you're instructing it. It's not just do it. You've got to be able to explain how to. It's like anything else. You've got to be able to put over the picture. And anyway, one of the things you had to do was you had to prove that you could put yourself stable from an unstable position. So on about the 10th jump, 12th, whatever it was, you would go out and you would deliberately mess the exit up, and so you were tumbling.
Yeah.
I scared the shit out of myself. I'd done about 15 jumps, never been unstable. Yeah. And I tumbled for about 3,000 feet.
Shit.
And eventually, big X.
Yeah.
Back to normal then. And
back to normal, easy.
Yeah. But it's good. I mean, you go on and people say, well, it's dangerous. Yeah, of course it's dangerous. I've always said it's dangerous. You don't follow the rules. Yeah. Follow the rules and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Equipment malfunctions are very few and far between. Human malfunctions are usually the root. Usually the root.
It's when you start panicking, isn't it? If you panic, then you're fucked. Ain't got time to panic.
Well, yeah. I had 7 out of all the jumps that I did. I had 7 malfunctions, all on free fall parachutes.
Yeah.
I could do the drills in my sleep now. They may have changed slightly, but I can even remember the first set of drills before we changed to the single point release. Because it used to be both of them. You used to clip down 2 buckles, put your thumbs in, pull, cover, get hold of the reserve, bang.
Yeah, look at that. Repetition, that is.
Yeah, the new one is, you're there, you've looked there, counted, malfunction, look down, locate both, cutaway pouch, reserve handle, bang, bang.
He's done it.
Do that, and all right, you might get a hard landing, but you'll be all right. I did it I can't say where it was, but it was in that big mass that's called Africa, somewhere in there, a little bit to the west coast, I think. Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And I'm following this guy who had very big white eyes and some very large teeth. No, it just looked like that because of the way when he was out free fall.
Yeah.
And, but that was eventually the first jump. He went off the ramp and pulled at, I think it was like 15,000 feet or something.
Yeah.
And he pulled a reserve. And the thing was, these were soldiers from the local, they weren't tribesmen. We hadn't just picked them out.
Yeah, you'll do.
These were military soldiers who had been trained by the French. And the thing with the French, back then, the French had a cross pull. So their main handle was on this side, whereas our main handle is on this side. I mean, nowadays it's all throwaways and different things.
Yeah.
But I said to my boss, I said, I tell you what, I said, one of these guys is going to pull up our reserve or his reserve. He said, well, that won't be a problem. I said, it will be if the height finder goes off, because he's now got 2 chutes.
Oh, yeah.
And he was fortunate that when the height finder did go off, he did land about 5 miles away, mine, up in Holland.
Fucking 5 miles. You better start tabbing.
Yeah. And that was funny, but I'm getting out of sync here. Right? Yeah, and anyway, I said I'm not pulling with him, because there's nothing I can do. He's under the canopy. You can't do anything until he lands, can he?
Yeah.
So I went down to 3,000 feet and pulled, and I had a malfunction. And it's like, don't believe this. And anyway, I came in and cut it away. And you've got a little bit of the old round parachutes. Again, now it's probably square on square now, so you've got a bit more maneuverability. But all you could do with a round reserve parachute is basically turn it. So you could just turn it and face into wind for a slightly softer landing. Well, I'm over trees, and I certainly ain't making it back to the airfield. So I'm looking there, and I can just see it, and I set myself up, and you're thinking, maybe going to get a branch up the arse here or something. And I come all the way down, and I land, and within seconds, I was completely surrounded, and they stood about 4 yards back, and they're about four deep, all these little black faces. And they were all local people, nothing to do with the military now. That lived locally, from a local tribe or whatever. Yeah,
obviously saw you come in.
It all parted, and this little bloke came through, and he probably it's hard to say, but he was probably between 50 and 65, somewhere in that region. Short, and he just looked at me, pointed at me like that, and he went, "You were dead, but now you are alive." And I was like, shaking anyway, because you've just had this, well, I say near-death experience. It's not quite like that, but
still, the adrenaline will be pumping a little bit.
Within minutes, there's 2 more arrived, come running in, panting. They found my mane, and they've wrapped it up and brought it to me.
That was nice of them.
Now, the guy that pulled his reserve, landed up a tree, and we get there, and again, there's a group of tribes people and what have you, and they all lived in the bush basically, but in their huts and what have you.
Yeah,
because we are out in the middle of nowhere, really. We're not like in a big town or anything. And this guy, he's got a machete on the end of a bloody great bamboo pole that's like 15 foot long, something. You know, it looks like a pole vault.
Yeah, trying to cut him down
with a machete, and he's trying to cut leaves and things so this parachute would come down, because there's a parachute up. And I'm saying to the bloke, tell him it doesn't matter. And anyway, he cuts through a couple of rigging lines, and the bloke went up and whacks him on the head, tells him off, which is damaging our property. And we're going, no, you can have it. We're not going to use it again.
Build a hammock.
Well, yeah, whatever, because
or a shelter.
Once you've used a reserve, it gets binned anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you ever use it in sports parachutes, it's a bit different. You just check it out like you check any other parachute out, and then everything's okay. You can reuse it.
Yeah.
Military-wise, if a reserve parachute's been used,
just get rid.
It's a bit like a bloody life jacket, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've used it for real, you ain't going to use it again, are you?
Nah, exactly.
But hey, that's
mental.
I can't remember where that was. I know. Should we just say it was French speaking?
A French speaking African area.
Yeah, but we had to train these guys, and I said it was a disaster. We had 6 malfunctions from them, that's a lot of malfunctions.
Yeah.
But it wasn't malfunctions of our kit.
Was it the language?
Obviously, no, it's because they've been trained by the French. Now, I'm not saying the French are no good at it, But like, if you take soldiers, not professional parachutists, you're talking about soldiers who just do a course.
Yeah.
But they don't jump very often. They know enough to get down and land safely and all the rest of it. But then if you give them a completely different parachute with a completely different operating procedure,
yeah,
they're going to revert to what they were taught in the beginning.
Yeah, you revert to original training.
Yeah. Especially if you're in a panic situation, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're in a panic situation. That's where you drill and drill and drill and drill. Otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, I love those stories. And I always like the story of when you would you'd be the cameraman. So they'd pile they'd pile all the kit on you and all that sort of stuff. I used to find that.
Well, when we first, it wasn't me that started it all off, but I got into it and started doing it. Pete Reynolds, an old friend of mine, used to do Wally Gubbins, the cartoon type videos that he made them. Me and Pete went back to the RAF gymnastic team. That was a long time ago. That was 1971, I think. And Pete never grew up. But he was good at camera work.
Yeah.
And I started jumping it, and I think the first time I jumped, it was like picking up an old VCR from underneath the telly.
Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously nowadays they've got like the GoPros, don't they, that they can just attach to the helmet.
Yeah, little things. I mean, what I wore, I remember having an argument with a BBC cameraman and crew person and all the rest of it when we were doing Blue Peter. And we're going to go jump at 20,000 feet with Janet Ellis going out with two of our guys, and then me and a bloke called Bob Souter were going to film. And I back off and get the exit coming towards us, and he comes to the side, and then they chop and change bits of each film.
Yeah.
Into this, and we must have had 15 takes on back of the mock-up Herc at Bryce, and this director kept going cut, and in the end I said, I've had enough, because I'm wearing the full kit.
It's not light.
No, and I'm walking about there, and in the end he turned around and he said, we've got to get it right. I said, well, listen, when we go out tomorrow, I said, and we get to about 15,000 feet, and he's looking at me, I said, if it's not going right, if I go cut, can you wind us all back so we can go back in the airplane and do it again? And he looked at me and said, what? No. I said, well, we only get one chance. I said, you've had 15. I said, and that's it, I'm going. And my boss was going, come on, Tommy, no, there's no need for that. I said, no, I've had enough. Bloody sweat was pouring out of me. And when you look at the actual video of the whole thing,
yeah,
the quality of video is just as good when we're free falling with these bloody great cameras and everything else on us. So this bloke prattling about on a mock-up, but anyway.
Yeah. That's got to be a pain though. But you sort of touched on something there that I was very similar to yourself, I think, where if I didn't like something or didn't think something was right, then I would say it. And I think that sort of thing is sometimes...
I've handed that down to you as well, have I?
Yeah, you've passed that down to me. I get all the good bits, good ankles and a sharp tongue, shall we say. But
I've just realised it says Edwin Thompson underneath me.
It does. That's your name.
Well, if I'd have realised that, I'd have put Tommo.
But the taking no shit thing, did you find that sort of put a stop on certain parts of progression within your career, or do you think it helped you go up?
That's a trick question.
Not a trick question.
I have been told,
yeah,
if I'd have stayed in, I'd have made a very good one officer. Is that fair enough? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we'll go with that. But one thing we should touch on then, seeing as we're around parachuting still, obviously you spent quite a bit of time in Hereford.
Yeah.
Helping out with training, shall we say, with the elite of the elite.
Mm-hmm.
Is there much you're allowed to disclose on that matter, parachuting wise, shall we say?
Well, it's a bit about what I've just said with the French, with them changing from one piece of equipment to another. You've got these guys in, and they're all very, very good soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get the odd bad egg, but you get that in every walk of life. But generally speaking, they are excellent soldiers, and hence that's why they're there. But they are there because they've got certain special skills. And I'm not talking about being able to go and throttle people and doing all that. They've got the special skills of being able to stay on target for a long time in lots of discomfort, to keep going when everything seems to be lost. It's those are the attributes that make a good soldier an elite soldier.
Yeah.
You get some very good soldiers who've got all the fighting skills and everything else, but they haven't got that bit of backbone. And I'm not knocking anybody for that.
Yeah.
It's like I've always said, when someone said to me one day, well, why didn't you ever go in for it? And I said, because I don't particularly want to sit in a hole and shit in a plastic bag for a week.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about.
Hmm.
I thought my attributes were better served by, and serving the people better by imparting knowledge to make them better so they can do a better job.
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it. I've gone off track here. What was the question?
No, it was I was asking, like, because obviously you were in Hereford as the PJI. I was like wondering what sort of knowledge and skill set that you brought to make them better. Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about from a training environment, these guys they've got, and it's a bit like if I talk about a conversation I had with an American major.
Yeah.
Who over a pint. I didn't particularly like this major, but and that was obvious. I kept getting kicked off my boss under the table, not to rub him up too much the wrong way. He was typical American, which is a bit unfair on a lot of Americans who are okay people. There's a lot of good soldiers.
Yeah.
I personally think that the American services lack leadership from above. Whereas, believe it or not, I think we, generally speaking, because of the way we bring our young captains and lieutenants through the system, being shadowed by more experienced NCOs, we get better officers in the long run. It's not always been that case, but I think that's what happens now. For example, if I was going to America for 3 weeks parachuting, I would go up to the commander or the troop leader, whoever it was, and say, right, Fred, what's your objective for day 21? And he would say, I want all my guys to be at this standard, be able to do this, this, and this, and I would like to have achieved 50 jumps each. So I would say, okay. I would then go away, and my job then, along with the other guys in the section, at the time was like Steve Tansley, but was the sergeant there.
Yeah.
And Steve, Big Steve, can't think of his surname in a moment, will come back to me in a minute. Vast knowledge on sport para, lots of sport para jumps, so he brought a different angle in. But we would then sit together and work out a program. And then we'd go to the guy and say, right, Fred, there you go. These guys who are out and out beginners, just on the parachute course, nothing else, they'll start off on 3 jumps a day, and we'll build up to 6 jumps a day by that day, and we will do this progression. And that was our job, rather than them having to sit down and work out that training program. So if they were then going on to some other skill while they were there,
yeah,
then whoever was teaching that skill would work out that training program.
Makes sense.
You know, it might be that if it was to do with shooting, it might be, it wouldn't necessarily just be an armourer or something. It would be one of their own guys who was an expert in close quarter battle.
Mm.
And that, I mean, that's the sort of thing. I mean, I learned how to run a range. I got my ticket to run a range, but go out and do the close quarter battle. I mean, I don't know if I ever told you, I nearly got shot. It's the closest I came to a bullet. As far as I know, the closest I came to a bullet on a night exercise. I had the electronic target operator, and I'm walking through the woods with the boys, and their drills were, if they make a contact, you drop, bang, bang, move back, and you move back in alternate pairs.
Yeah. Yep.
And you keep moving back, because the whole idea, if you're on long range reconnaissance, is not to get caught.
Yeah.
So they don't know who you are, and basically would not get found in the first place. But if you do come into contact, it's not to stand there and fight it out. It's to
break contact.
A couple of rounds and get out of it.
Yeah.
Well, they were told how to move back, and I'm stood there. I was always told, like, you don't move, because I'm on the target.
Mm.
And I knew where the electronic things were. I just press a button and up it comes, and they had to go boom, boom, and then off you go. And lots of noise going on, and there's people banging, and these are live rounds, mine. People are firing them off, and then all of a sudden, I can't remember the code word. There was a code word, and then a whistle went out, which meant stop. And this voice is going, Tommy, Tommy. And it gets more and more panicky. Tommy! And I'm going, yeah, what do you want? He went, thank fuck for that. What had happened was, the first 2 that had moved diagonally away, but they went completely 45 degrees off where they should have been.
Oh, God, yeah.
and they were actually firing at me.
Oh, nice.
Or over me.
Well, it shows they're not very good on target then. They missed.
Yeah, I was a bit thinner then.
It reminds me of a similar range.
That was a moment to laugh about, but it wasn't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you just, we had a beer and everything.
Standard.
And it brings home the point of when you're training, and you're training for real, like these boys do. I don't know how much training you did with live ammo and what have you, actually in the field moving, but it becomes very critical. You can't afford to make mistakes.
Oh, no, definitely. And you actually reminded me.
But I'm only a Gwyn, which you haven't used that expression.
I haven't.
Yet.
Well, you were airborne, weren't you?
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, that sort of story reminds me of when we went through live firing before we deployed to Kandahar, and we were told you're on a 360 degree battle space, which means the targets can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
In theory, they're not going to come from anywhere. They're just going to come from in front of you, and you engage and roll them up. So a good friend of mine who you've met, Dan Shipper, was the lead. No, he was the rear gunner. So he was checking behind us. Next thing you know, one of the blokes that's running the range has put the wrong target up. So this target comes up from behind him. Dan engages, the target goes down, and all we hear is a big flap from all the top brass. Stop. Then we go over, and one of our lads, who has been a casualty, is lying on the floor right next to the target that Dan was engaging. They're like, why are you firing from behind? And he's like, well, you said it was a 360 degree battle space. Of course I'm going to shoot behind me if a target pops up. He almost shot one of his mates.
Yeah, it's interesting life.
It is. And he done a lot of good stuff. But what I really want to quickly touch before you obviously have to disperse and bask in your retirement Obviously, you took your coaching from the Air Force and you carried that on, and me and Darren benefited a lot from that. Mainly Darren, we'll say. With football and
football.
Yes. So within Hereford itself, you managed and were part of some very successful coaching teams, and especially Darren growing up with Westfields. That was myself personally watching that, because obviously I used to go and watch Darren play, and that was a very successful team, especially the under 14s to under 16s.
Yeah,
that was a very, very good team, and it was it you and Dave Hobson, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because
Dave Hobson was the manager.
Because managing was never your thing, was it?
No. What?
No.
What do you mean?
Well, you're a coach, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. There's a difference between being a good coach and a good manager.
Yeah.
And obviously, coaching was your thing.
Yes. But I did manage as well.
Yeah, I didn't say you didn't.
But I didn't like the managing too much.
Well, no, because you had to deal with other people, didn't you? Within the FA and things like that. Hereford FA.
I wasn't good at that.
But no, so what I'm trying to get at is, like, me and Darren we've always been pretty decent at sports, which has obviously come from you. And I remember just doing just little things that obviously has shaped us, should we say? So from your coaching sort of background. That shaped
you is Kate's cooking, by the looks of it.
Oh, cheers, mate. Lockdown.
Yeah, all right.
Cheers. No, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? That's nasty. No, what I'm trying to say was that obviously we would play out in the garden, we'd do all this little things and little things. And the one that I'm gonna bring up is obviously for me was basketball, and the fact that when you took the Tupsy Chargers team and you were doing your training on a Thursday night or whatever it was, you would always put the benches down the middle of the upstairs gymnasium at Bishop's. You'd put the benches down the middle. You would take the main men's team up there, and you would say, "Right, Sean, go and play on your own, basically, for a bit in that half," and just got me used to dribbling a basketball and shooting at a basket. It was far too, and it was just nice.
You surprised us all that when all of a sudden we realised that you were good.
I had to be good at something.
No, I didn't mean it like that. You did it by the fact that what you just said. The fact that you were there, you watched, you copied, and you tried things.
Yeah.
It was like monkey sees, monkey does in that sense. And I'm not referring to you as a monkey, but it's... No, but it is. I mean, that's the expression.
No, I get you.
It's like I did a little bit of coaching for athletics up at Bishop's School.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've always said this, that once you become an instructor and you can teach or coach, you know the basic principles of how to put things across and what have you, then you have to be good enough to do certain drills, but you haven't got to be the best footballer in the world to be a good coach. But you utilize the knowledge that you've got, and teaching one sport is no different to teaching anything. You know the subject.
Yeah.
And if you like the subject, you can then put it forward. And I think as a testament to the training I had as a PTI, all right, a lot of it is your natural ability. I've always said there's natural ability and natural fitness. Some people are just fitter than others. That's why they become marathon runners, and other people are built to be sprinters, and that's just how you are. But to coach, it's been able to observe and then impart information to improve that person. See the person's fault. I mean, I'm coaching myself at the moment at golf, aren't I?
Yeah, Darren has told me you've got your little gadgets, gizmos.
Yeah,
that's good though. It's working. To be fair, even Kate said the other day she saw you on FaceTime, I think, when we were talking, and she was like, "Your dad's lost weight." And I went, "Oh yeah, he's playing golf every day."
Well, yeah, it's a bit of that.
You've passed on your weight to me, apparently.
I've given it to you. But yeah, going back to football in Hereford, I mean, it was quite an eye-opener because, I mean, to a degree, I found when I first got there, I'm just being honest now, that Hereford was a bit of a backwater from a footballing point of view.
I think it still is.
But they have had some good players, and I've been around a few good players, and I've enjoyed most of it. I mean, I used to enjoy it when I was running the reserves at Peggy, and the guys were old enough and we used to meet up. Well, we'd go straight from the ground. I used to meet your mum and say 7:30 in the evening, and then I would go my separate way with her, and the boys would go off and do their thing.
Yeah.
We would be in town, and we'd go in. I can remember being in one bar, that long bar by the chip shop on top of Commercial Road. I think it's long bar, actually.
Oh, not the hot pole, the Litten Tree.
No, it's only right at the top.
The Kerry.
Just past the church.
The Kerry.
No, you're doing. We're on Commercial Road.
Yeah.
You got the chip shop.
Yeah.
It's been there for years, and next to there's
Golden
a long
Galleon.
thin. Yeah, next to the Golden Galleon, there's a long bar.
Not the Litten Tree and not the hot pole. The one next to that.
No, this side of it, the traffic light side.
I don't know.
There's a long bar. Goes the whole, and it's only. Well, anyway, we're in there, and Scott, I think was Scotty, a couple of others, and we're all we're having a beer and what have you. And this bloke starts giving me a bit of shit.
Yeah.
And this is why I was in the prison service, and we were leaving, about to leave anyway, and. And someone said, "Do you know him?" I said, "Oh, he's a con, an ex-con." I said, "He's a bit of an alcoholic. He's not really a problem," and all the rest of it. So I had a word with him and just said, "Look, leave it out, mate. I'm out with some friends and whatever." I said, and they might not take it in the same way as and we don't want any trouble. Blah blah blah. Anyway, off we go. Boys went their way, and me and your mum went to the wine bar on Widemarsh Street. Saxty's,
yeah.
Yeah, we've gone in there, and of course, I'm going in there now, and I'm now going to meet up with some regiment guys or ex-regiment guys, but they're in there.
Yeah.
And this guy's has followed me and your mum, not unknown to me. And we've got in there, and he starts giving me some jip in the bar. One of the lads,
wrong bar to do that in.
Comes walking across to me. He said, "Tommo," he said, "is that guy giving you a problem?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you put him outside or something?" I said, "There's no need, he's harmless, but he's getting on my nerves now." And the next thing I turned, and there's two of the guys come from the bar, and they've got this bloke under an armpit each side, and he's facing that way towards me, and he's sort of looking like, "What?" And the boys are walking him out. And the doorman just opened the doors for them, and they dropped him outside. And it was, and the other. This was a prison service one rather than the other. Funny one was again a drunk. He sat in the barrels in the garden before they changed it all.
Yeah.
So if you come out the main door at the back, and just to your right, which is where Matt, priest usually stands now when it's open, but that never used to be there. It used to be there was a chair, and there's a bloke sat in the chair, and he's been drinking, and I walk out, and he's giving me shit, isn't he? I mean, he's effing and blinding at me. He's calling me all sorts of everything, and then it goes quiet, and I turn back, and your brother's got him by the throat. And he's starting to pull him out of the chair.
He's a sneaky one, that brother of mine.
And I went, "Come on, Darren." I said, "Just leave it. He's no bother. You can push him over." He was that pissed. Didn't think more of it. And Darren was going, "You have to put up with that all the time, Dan." I said, "Now and again." I said, and that, I mean, I've told you 2 stories there very quickly.
Yeah.
But that was over 10 years. So it's not like every day or anything.
Yeah.
And anyway, this going back to that one, on the Monday morning, I go on Sea Wing, and I go up to the punishment landing, which was mine. I don't know why they gave me the punishment landing, but I had it. And I opened the door to cell 1, and this voice goes, "All right, Gov, I'm really sorry about the other day." And there he is, sat there.
Just sat there.
Jesus. He just sat there. And you're thinking, "Oh my God!" And he just happened to pick my landing, my cell. But there, yeah. I think with loads of talk to things about the prison service you can talk about. How's the time? Oh, we're all right for a little while, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean,
that's a different
environment,
isn't it? The prison service.
We had a guy. I won't tell you his name because it would be embarrassing for him. And no, it wouldn't be embarrassing. I wouldn't care about him being embarrassed.
Yeah,
it would embarrass his family. He came in, and he was ex-army. Came into Gloucester, and I'm on A wing this time. And one of the cons said to me, he went, "Go." And I said, "What's it?" He said, "That Mr. So-and-so." He said, "He's a bit strange, isn't he?" I said, "What do you mean he's a bit strange?" He said, "Well, he practices kung fu kicking when he's on at lunchtime. So when you're on the landing, you've got to patrol the landing. Everything's shut. Everyone else has gone, and then you go back in the office. But you should do 2 or 3 patrols in the hour around all, just to make sure." And apparently he's up there giving it the old "well" and all this kung fu kicking and what. And I asked him about it, and then I said, "Why are you telling everybody you're ex-special forces?" And he was like, I said, "Well, you're not, are you?" I said, "Were you actually at the camp?" I said, "Because I was at the camp not that long ago." I said, "And I don't remember you." And he said, "Well, you weren't special forces." I said, "I know I wasn't." I said, "I was in the Air Force, and I worked in the Para Centre." I said, "I always tell everybody that whether they choose to believe me is another thing."
Yeah.
And turned out he was an armourer, and not a particularly good one.
Yeah.
He left to try and join the police force, and the police force caught him out. And wherever he went, he was one of those that just told, fabricated things about what he'd heard, rather than
bit of a walk-nitty.
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy turn around to me one day when I was in Gloucester prison, and he was banging on about parachuting, and I happened to tell, I said, "I've done a little bit of parachuting." And he went, "Oh, really?" And this bloke was saying how he'd done all sorts of things in southern Germany, and I went, "Interesting. Where?"
Whereabouts?
And he went, "Oh," and he said the place, and it's not there anymore now, so it doesn't matter. But
yeah,
it was just a NATO training school that I happened to be at for a while. And it turned out this guy was in the Pioneer Corps. He was a bloody driver. He used to drive the troops down to act as our enemy. So if we had the paras out there, for example, they'd be given a job of come down to be enemy. I mean, I'm sure you did it, or you had people come and do it to you. But he was telling everybody how he ran the place. But what his question to me, he said, "Well, how many jumps have you done?" I said, "Oh, about, I don't know." I said, "Somewhere over 2,000. And he went, "Is that all?"
Just a couple.
And when you think about it, there are people nowadays. I mean, I think there's a couple of lads that I knew back when I was still in, who were on 5,000 or 6,000, and if they're still jumping, they could be way up.
Yeah, of course.
But 15 years ago, more than that, 90. For Christ, it's nearly 30 years, isn't
it?
Yeah. 30 years ago, I bet there wouldn't have been more than 50 people in the country with over 3,000 descents.
Yeah, not likely.
I don't think so. I mean, I might be wrong. I mean, there'll be a few guys that stayed in, but you do less and less as you get older anyway.
Joints can't take it.
I mean, you got people. Dave Wood, who opened his own parachute place out in Cornwall. I dare say he's got quite a few because he did it for quite a number of years. You know, I won't go through all the names, but there's quite a few guys that carried on jumping quite late. I mean, I'd do another one. You haven't asked me that question. Would I do another jump? I'd do one for the road.
Yeah, of course you would.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you would.
But,
get you signed off. But you do have a football match coming up.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll last that. Ankles. Give it a go, though.
Well, it'll be part of your dream that you'll finally be able to play with me and Darren in the same team.
Yeah.
Played alongside Darren, I know that.
Played in the same basketball team.
Yes. Tepsy Chargers.
You remember that?
Tepsy Chargers against Tembury in the Tembury court. That horrible sports hall that they had, tiny one. I came off the bench.
You remember the game against? You wouldn't have been playing, I don't think.
Against the fire service.
Yeah. When I went, I took Darren off and went on.
Yeah, I was watching.
I gave that bloke a bit of his own medicine, didn't I?
Yeah. That's the thing with I found anyway in basketball terms.
Well, I hope you've.
You what?
Hey. Go on.
I was just saying, you find it in basketball terms, like obviously the fire service did it to the Tepsy Chargers team when you had a group of young lads from the school playing, and then when I was playing for the Hereford Hawks against Gloucester Police. They were the same. Yeah, they were the same. They tried to bully us, and I had my mouth split open.
I know. I was there.
But it's just the thing, innit?
You beat them the next time.
Oh yeah, I beat him quite a few times. But yeah.
So you ran out of things to say to me, have you? Eh?
Oh,
it's the longest conversation.
This is our longest conversation on the phone ever.
I think it's the longest conversation ever about anything.
About anything. Yeah. That's been good, Ted.
Is that me behind you?
Where? Up here?
Yeah.
No, that's me. That's my caricature in Malta.
Yeah, I know.
I do have you though. Hold on. I'll be right back. I've got a couple. So you are officially in the shed.
Oh, right.
So we've got.
Oh, yes.
That rascal, and then we've got one with you and Grandad.
Oh, the old man. Yeah, good.
3 generations of Thompson.
Your parcel arrived?
Yeah, you sent it to the wrong address.
Where did I send it to?
67 Cork Street.
No, the pen didn't work.
But the big pen. Yeah, so that got sent to a lovely lady with dementia.
And she couldn't remember having it. But you got them.
Yeah, I got them. Wearing them now.
Oh, that's them, is it? Yeah, right. So they're good.
Yeah, very good. Very good, yeah.
What's that microphone thing you got?
So this Well, the microphone Darren got from Mum, I think. It's just a bog standard microphone, and then the arm that I've got that I can move about makes me look professional.
You haven't looked at Amazon the last couple of days?
No.
That's all right then.
Why?
Well, your birthday present's on its way. Be there tomorrow, I think.
Oh, I love it. I won't open it until
you can open it
next Sunday.
Yeah, you can open it because it's to do with what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Dad.
Yeah, I know I said I wasn't getting you birthday presents, but
you can't help yourself, can you?
Oh, well, I have to get it. No, he had a decent camera for Christmas, so
there you go then. Bosh.
There you go. So you run out of things to say.
I never run out of things to say, but
well, Scotty was talking about his night in the orange tree, wasn't he? He reminded me of that on Darren's podcast.
Yes, he was.
Where he had his drinks saluted.
Yeah, some good nights though. To be fair, on that.
I've forgotten all about that, but
oh no, there's some really good ones.
But,
yeah, definitely. And the one with Pete Williamson couldn't make his way up the stairs because he tried to outdrink you.
Yeah.
And then we could even fast forward to my leaving party before we went to Kandahar.
Oh yeah.
And we had the black tie event, and you had your dicky bow on and whatnot. And we were up drinking whiskey until like 5 a.m. And some of the lads couldn't keep up, could they? Couldn't keep up. No. One of the blokes wouldn't leave you alone. Yeah, talking about parachuting with you, Scally.
Oh yeah. I think the other thing that came up on Darren's was Biffo.
Yeah,
admitting that he knew all along that he got me sent off. We were playing at the leisure centre, and he shouted at the referee.
Yeah,
said something, swore at him, did something, and the referee came over and sent me off. And
for years, I bet you was.
I was absolutely fuming, but not with Biffo.
With the referee.
With the referee. And the referee actually admitted to me afterwards that he knew that it wasn't me. I said, "Well, rescind the red card." He said he wouldn't until he found out who it was. I wouldn't tell him.
it was Biffo.
Yeah, he did eventually own up to it because this got to the point where I was going to pack it all in. I was going.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, but there you go.
Definitely. It's
I mean, I can remember your football there when you were playing for Marriott's, and I left the game to go and watch Darren play in a final.
You got a phone call.
I got a phone call to say you've been sent off.
Yeah, a bit of context on that. So I was having a good game. We were playing Ross.
Yeah, I know. I watched the first part, didn't I?
And I was playing fullback, and I made a tackle. So I ran from the halfway line, sprinted to the left back position, and made a tackle. They managed to get the ball back, put the cross in, and they scored a header. And I got the blame for it for not being in position. And then my head went, basically. I was not happy.
I remember.
And I had a bit of a temper on me. I take after my mother on that one.
Well, yeah.
It was not a nice tackle. I think, in fact, we both...
I had to go at somebody, the centre half, at half time. It's the only time I stepped in because Matt was talking about this one. On that same game.
Justin was playing centre half, I think. I can't remember who the other centre half was.
Said to him, I said, well, I said, you're blaming him for the goal. I said, but if you'd have done your job in the first place, he wouldn't have been there. And Matt looked at me and he went, fair play. Matt doesn't
as Matt does, yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah. I enjoyed playing in that team. That team sort of made me a little bit because it was the first team that I sort of went out on my own.
Yeah.
I think you sort of got me into him with Matty Priest and whatnot. But I was always following Darren, basically, whether it was Tupsley Pegasus, Westfields, Peggy.
Well, I could never understand why, and I probably never will find out, that Mick Williams didn't rate you at all, did he?
No, he didn't like me.
And I don't know what it was. Anyway, that's for another day.
That is, I never really rated him as a manager or a coach anyway.
As a window cleaner.
Or as a window cleaner, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm going to have to push on.
That's fine, Dad. I've loved it every second.
Is that all right?
It has been brilliant.
Okay.
And I'll catch you again soon.
All right then. Speak to you soon.
In a bit.
Cheers.